Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. And a warning that this episode of Doin Time contains audio images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have died and graphic discussion of deaths in custody and massacres. This is Marisa and I'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. Today's show is dedicated to all First Nations people of the frontier wars who were massacred around the country. This is an act of genocide. In particular, this show today is committed to providing coverage specifically on the Myall Creek massacre coming up in June. And of course, as always, this broadcast is dedicated to women in prison. And historically, the Doin Time show has always honoured women in prison and lived experience, providing a safe environment for marginalised communities to come in and talk about what concerns them. On this week's show, we will start off by bringing you an interview with Nina, formerly incarcerated woman and member of the FIGJAM collective of formerly incarcerated justice advocates based in Melbourne. We will discuss a submission to the Australian Law Reform Commission's Justice Responses to Sexual Violence Issues paper prepared by Nina Storey and Karen Fletcher at Flat Out, and Sahini Mekta and Monique Hurley at the Human Rights Law Centre, with contributions from formerly incarcerated people and members of the FIGJAM collective. Joining us after that is First Nations podcaster and activist Bo Spearim, who was born in Western Sydney and raised on the south side of Brisbane. He is the speaker for the Myall Creek Massacre Memorial this year, 2024. Finally, we will hear from David Glanz from the Refugee Action Collective, who will give us an update on the vigil and march for journalists killed in Gaza, which happened on Friday. Formerly incarcerated women, trans and gender diverse people, alongside advocacy and human rights groups, are calling for governments across the country to permanently prohibit the practice of strip searching people in Australian prisons. In a joint submission to the Australian Law Reform Commission's inquiry into legal responses to sexual violence, the groups draw on decades of advocacy by lived experience, advocates calling out strip searching for what it is: sexual abuse at the hands of the state. Essentially, the submission has put forward some recommendations which I hope to discuss with Nina. I'm excited to welcome her to the show. Hello, Nina. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Marisa. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
It's so lovely to have you. Nina, I'm wondering if you could just introduce yourself. I mean, I just think that lived experience is really important for this show, and talk about the submission.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. First, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm also on the lands of the first custodians in Myall, which is otherwise known as Phillip Island, on the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations. And I'd like to acknowledge all of the women, trans, gender diverse people and men across these lands that are currently in cages, some as young as 10 years old, and that our legal systems are racist and used as tools of genocide. So thanks. My name is Nina. I'm formerly incarcerated and I work for Flat Out. Flat Out's an organisation in Victoria that's state-wide, and we provide support and advocacy services for women, trans and gender diverse people and their children who have been criminalised. We're an independent, not-for-profit, community-based organisation, and we don't take money from corrections to properly stand in solidarity with the people that we're trying to support. Flat Out also resources women, trans and gender diverse people with lived expertise to inform and educate the broader community in the right to live free from trauma, injustice and violence. And we have a number of different programs that are peer-led, really elevating the lived experience voices of the people that we're trying to support. And we also have lived experience in positions of leadership and governance.
Fantastic. I'm glad that Flat Out hasn't changed. It's been a long time. Strip searching people in prisons is humiliating and dehumanising and traumatising. Can you talk about strip search and I suppose really discuss the issues paper and why such a need and what's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. As you already mentioned before, it was the Human Rights Law Centre, Monique and Sahini, that supported this submission to the Australian Law Reform Commission, and also want to do a massive shout out to the strength and determination of Stacey Stokes, Sarah, Nikita and the FIGJAM Collective for their courage to speak up and what it means to for them to have their voices in this submission, because they're deeply personal, traumatic experiences. And so, yeah, like you've already mentioned, strip searches are horrifically harmful. There's inhumane treatments in detention. They are, taking the human rights and the freedom and the cruelty of really inhumane, degrading treatments of people. And we know that 70 to 90% of women that are incarcerated have actually experienced sexual abuse. So having to undergo these procedures can be hugely traumatising and really, really triggering. And it's sexual abuse. And women too, they lose their agency and they lose their power when they're incarcerated. So having the opportunity to actually deny these practices in taking place are next to none. And if you do, by chance, have the opportunity to say, you know what, I am actually not going to be undertaking a strip search, you will be slotted. And slotted means that you're in solitary confinement. They have been rebranded as separation practice programs or management units, and I think that that's another thing, that language can be really, really problematic because it makes it sound like it's not what it is, which is another really dehumanising practice. We know that these practices are hugely traumatising, and so we've prepared this submission and requested a number of different recommendations. Firstly, as we would know, one of the recommendations would be, of course, ideally to abolish prisons, because we know how harmful they are. We know that they are death camps for our First Nations people, that there's so much harm and abuse that goes on within these systems. So ideally, we're requesting to close all current prisons and a commit or a plan of action to do so. And also to end the over-imprisonment of acute harms caused to particular cohorts of people disproportionately locked away in prisons across Australia. And also to raise the minimum age of criminal responsibility to at least 14 years, as I've already mentioned. Some people across these lands are incarcerated at 10 years old. It's horrific, and these children are also undergoing strip searches. So it's one thing to think about being strip searched as an adult by another adult and how dehumanising and traumatising that experience is. But when these practices are played out from a 10-year-old child to an adult, that is forcing them to undergo a strip search, that is so traumatising for a young person.
It is, and in particular, if that young person is having flashbacks of childhood sexual abuse, I mean, really, not matter what age it is, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Another couple of recommendations are that we want to obviously cease and prohibit all practices of strip searching across all prisons. And it's mind-blowing too that, like, we're in 2024, right? So it's not like there aren't alternatives already in place in prisons. As an abolitionist, I'm really also really aware that I don't want to pour more money into a prison industrial complex. But these alternatives are already being used in prisons, like body scanners. So I actually have got no understanding why it is that we're still resorting to strip searching, other than it is a method of power and control to be used by the officers to weaponise women, anyone in prison, to weaponise these acts against people that are incarcerated as a form of power and control to make them comply. And I think it's really important to note too that, like, the Human Rights Law Centre has been doing this work over a number of years and continues to apply for freedom of information requests across Australia, and they are so challenging to get. And then a lot of the states are saying, oh, we're actually not practicing that, but we know that that's an absolute lie, because the people that are incarcerated and coming back into community and finally finding their voice and ability to communicate this, those practices are still taking place. So I think that that's really important to note too, that governments are lying about these procedures taking place. There are no guidelines or policies or procedures for strip searching to be made available. And the documentation and data is really, really hard to collect. And when we do get the data, it's years out of date.
Exactly. So they're not even public documents.
No. And we fought really, really hard to get some of these documentations. And so some of the data that we have been able to obtain, like I said, it's been, outdated. But we were able to get some registered entries from 2 women's prisons in Victoria in 2017. And this revealed that over 6,200 strip searches, only on 6 occasions were there items found.
That's right. And in the submission, there are quite a few contributions, aren't there, from women in prison?
Yes, there
who
are.
have been to prison. And that's where can people read that submission?
It would be uploaded on the website.
The Human Rights Law Centre website.
The Human Rights Law Centre website, and also the Australian Law Reform Commission needs to upload every submission that was made to their website as well.
Nina, I'm really interested in looking at recommendations 10 and 11. I think number 10, the ALRC recommend that the federal government resolve the funding standoff with the states, and the Victorian, New South Wales and Queensland governments implement Australia's obligations to the United Nations Anti-Torture Treaty and the optional protocol to the Convention Against Torture. If you don't know much about it, I could always interview Monique at a later date, but I'm sure you'd know quite a bit about it yourself.
Yeah, look, I don't know too much about it, but
That's
I
okay.
do know that there's been a number of different circumstances where we do not allow the UN to come into prisons.
Correct.
It's obvious that we are hiding things from prisons. I know too that there's just been a coroner inquest to a woman up in Queensland that's died in a spit hood. So, like, all of these really horrific practices that are undergoing in our prisons across Australia, this is why we don't allow people to come in to our prisons, because we are hiding the mistreatment of people that are currently incarcerated.
Nina, I wanted to thank you for bringing that to the attention of listeners. It's exactly what was needed today for the interview, because it's all secret.
It is. It's all secret, and the only reason we find out is once people come out of prison and are able to tell their stories. And I might also add that some of the FIGJAM members and other community members that I've been speaking to are still on parole. And so that means it's pretty much open air prison. You are completely gagged and silenced while you're on parole, and also not allowed to speak out about your own personal experiences. So only sometime way after you've been incarcerated do you actually have the legal right to tell your story and make this public knowledge.
And you also touched on this, but it is really important, isn't it, to have a National Human Rights Act, and that was recommended as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to start doing some really strong advocacy to make this a national approach. And another problem is that different states have different legalities, so they operate in different ways, and also have got different forms of and methods of collecting data and producing data. So to have a national approach would be extremely helpful.
Absolutely. I'm just having a look here at a comment that was made by a female prisoner, that 2 female prison officers were making comments. So how do you think we feel?
Yeah, so that was an experience by Sarah, who's a FIGJAM member, and so she was speaking about when she was getting undressed, these particular officers, she'd mentioned to them, like, this is a hugely traumatic experience for me, and they replied with, oh, well, how do you think that we feel? And I think it's really important to note there that they are the ones that have the power and control in that situation. They are closed. They actually have the right to say that this shouldn't be taking place or this practice shouldn't be performed, but they completely discredited how she was feeling and turned it back onto, well, how do you think I feel? Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and it's self-indulgent, actually.
Yeah.
Narcissistic.
It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing how these things, like I said, it's 2024, and again, out of those 6,000 strip searches that were undertaken, 6 items were found of contraband. And I mean contraband, it was like very small amounts of tobacco and other things, which can also be detected via, there was actually chewing gum was another unidentified object. I mean, this is ridiculous.
It is indeed, and, I feel really honoured that you've come onto the show to talk about this, because this is something that's not really in the media too much, and I'd really like to continue this discussion, on an ongoing basis to invite you back and invite any other people that want to come onto this show.
Oh, that would be really, really lovely, actually, and we are starting to really take traction here in Victoria with the support of other organisations that have got lived experience embedded, like, obviously Sisters Inside, the National Network, Seeds of Affinity. We're all starting to really gain some traction and make some really hardcore moves. So, yeah, watch this space.
Nina, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been lovely having you. And
thanks so much.
It was great chatting, and we'll connect again soon, I hope.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And thanks to yourself, thanks to 3CR for elevating our experiences and our voices, and for running such an awesome program.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And that was Nina Storey from Flat Out and FIGJAM talking about a submission about strip searching and sexual violence.
Western Sahara along the Atlantic coast of Africa is the continent's last colony, a land of struggle and resilience. Join Mohamed Mayara, a journalist, activist and trade unionist from occupied Western Sahara, on his June tour. Events included dinner and an art exhibition on June 10 at the Lomond Hotel, a panel discussion on June 12 at the Trades Hall, and a documentary screening and a discussion on June 13 at the Institute of Postcolonial Studies. For more information, visit Australian Western Sahara Association at awsa.org.au or email us at info@awsa.org.au.
A 3CR supporter.
And in case you've just tuned in, this is the Doin Time show, 3CR. Each year, hundreds of people from across the country gather on the Sunday of the June long weekend to commemorate the unprovoked massacre of at least 28 Wirraye women, children and old men by a group of stockmen on Myall Creek Station in June 1838. On the line, we've got Bo Spearim, who I've interviewed before about the Frontier Wars, and he's been awesome. And I want to actually welcome him back pretty soon to talk about Myall Creek. He's going to be their speaker for the Myall Creek Memorial this year. Hello, Bo. Welcome.
Hey, Yama, how you going then?
Lovely to have you. Can you just talk about what land you're from and where you are at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. So, my dad is Gamilarey. He's born in Moree on the mission. At a time when blackfellas weren't considered humans. My mum, she's from Gadooga and Brewarrina, from a reserve, very similar to a mission, but a different setup. But also, I think, had that Christian influence as well, religious influence. And yeah, same as her. She was born at a time when blackfellas weren't cast as humans and was under the Protection Act. I do live. I was born in Western Sydney. I was born in Blacktown. I grew up in St Mary's, Mount Druitt and Katoomba. But spent most of my life up here in Brisbane, on Yagara country. And I live in an area where, the Protection Act lasted till 1983, after huge protests from blackfellas and supporters. And actually, staunch mob from, Victoria, Tasmania, and everywhere else around the country stood in solidarity with the blackfellas up here in Queensland to repeal the racist laws and acts that was, put upon blackfellas in those times. And I'm basically at the laundromat because my washing machine shit itself. I've got to call the company to check up on the what do you call it? The thing. What's up?
The machine.
Yeah, the machine. Like when you buy something and it has like a lease thing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that. I forgot the word. It'll come to me.
Oh,
but anyway,
God.
So I'm at the laundromat washing my clothes and the kids' clothes, and yeah. So.
Wow.
In the car now. So. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So you're the speaker for Myall Creek this year. Can you talk about the Myall Creek Massacre? It's so important that listeners understand what it is.
Definitely. As you mentioned in your introduction, a group of, men, women and children, elders as well, were camping at a site that was on Myall Creek, a land owned by a wealthy landowner. And one night on, I think it was the 15th or the 12th of June, an unprovoked attack saw a massacre take place and events that took place after that unfolded, which we never saw or heard of again. It comes at a very pivotal time as well. So this was 1839. 5 months prior was the Waterloo Creek Massacre, where soldiers were sent up from Sydney to track a bunch of Aboriginal people who were causing trouble and resisting pastoral leases and farmers sort of conducting work on Gomeroi country. And it's interesting that, when massacres take place close to proximity to each other, it's usually the same people involved. So what happens is when the military come through, they train, squatters and farmers and everybody else in sort of paramilitary tactics and how to track and corral people, because these people, the soldiers involved, they're seasoned veterans. You could say all their leading officers were in the Napoleonic Wars, and so they were hungry for blood and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, I mean, from what I can gather, this actually is happening on the 10th of June, the memorial, isn't it? Yep.
So it's happening a couple of days, I think, before the actual event, which occurred. And as I said, what happened after, we never saw again. And what I mean by that is eventually after 2 trials, and I think it was originally 11 people charged, and only, I think it was a handful of those that were charged actually was found guilty and hung. And even during that process, there's interesting facts to look at. There was an Aboriginal man who saw what happened. He had to convert to Christianity to testify, because if he didn't, his word, I guess, under God in court wouldn't be valid. And this, I guess for many British colonies around the world, Indigenous folks had to sort of convert to Christianity if they wanted to see some form of justice. But before he could give evidence, he was never found again. So it's likely that he was captured and killed, and his body discarded from. And when these things take place on huge partial leases or in places where there's a lot of wealth to be made, there are definitely a lot of heavy hitters that are sort of involved, or people with influence involved that can use their money to sway the sort of the perception in the community in regards to what happened and why things should just go on the way that they are. So there's a lot of interesting. I can get into that if you want to ask. I don't want to tell too much without you asking questions. Sorry.
No. Actually, Bo, this is very good what you're talking about. That I'm very happy that you've talked about this. It's
awesome.
It's exactly what I wanted to put out. And in fact, you've actually done lots of podcasts about frontier war stories, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Which has got 160,000 downloads. And the podcast is dedicated to truth-telling, isn't it?
Yes. I think it's almost at 190. I've been really slack on pumping episodes out. So there's about 35, 36, I think, up now. And I've got lots more to come as well. I've just done a partnership with the Myall, like the Blackfellow newspaper, down on Bunjalung country, which is awesome. I'm working with the Awesome Black, another black podcast company as well, which people should check out. But it's a very interesting things that happen. So, the landowner Dangar was a very, very wealthy man. I think when he passed away, he was one of Sydney's richest people at one time in his life. He owned anything with Dangar named after it is usually named after him, or I think maybe his sons as well. They brought up a lot of stuff, especially in New South Wales. The one thing he did in the lead up to the trial is him and his rich buddies, they started an association called the Black Association, and so they paid for the legal representation of the people, of the workers who sided, with him, because there was one that turned on us and said, it was disgusting what happened. Mm. And what the Black Association also did was they printed, news articles, tarnishing the sort of, what happened and really sort of, having, a negative and derogatory look at sort of what happened and really smearing any form of sort of justice. And, possibly that's why that the first trial didn't go through.
Okay, I get that. I mean, next week we're going to be speaking with Keith, who's a descendant, I believe, of one of the people that were massacred, and he'll talk more about the memorial. But just for listeners, Bo, I believe that the massacre site and memorial were included on the National Heritage Register, weren't they?
Yeah, it was not too long ago. And this memorial's been going on for, I think, well over almost 20 years now. And, the way that it was started with, the elders of the area, as well as, the descendants of the perpetrators and local people within the area as well, which is good, and which is somewhat of the start in regards to sort of truth-telling and where we sort of need to go as a country in regards to the conversations that need to happen first and the accountability. But it's it's one site that I think should be recognised with such importance as well. So about 2 hours towards Maureen is where the Waterloo Creek massacre site happened, and in between those two massacres, I think it was like 5 to 6 other sort of massacres that aren't known as those two. Yeah. And this is in like, a 5 to 6 months period. So one happened in January, the other one happened in June, and in between and after and before as well, like, there's white fellas going out just going ham on Gomeroi people, to take land. It was a very brutal time, water was scarce, and I remember interviewing Lyndall Ryan, who just passed away. So rest in peace to Lyndall Ryan, and definitely shout out to the work that she has put together in this area and in this fight for truth telling and justice for our people.
Lyndall Ryan, I've interviewed her a couple of times, and she is responsible really for helping out, creating the massacre map. And she will be really missed.
Definitely, and even her early work, I think in early work in the 70s, the 80s and 90s, in this discussion, and as a woman in that history space as well, having a perspective on sort of this history, or when history is so conservative, let alone patriarchal as well. So. We know, the space that she was in and the flack that she would have copped as well. Also, not to mention, like, she was, a very staunch feminist from back in the day as well. I was reading an article about her.
From The Guardian?
From The Guardian, and her friend wrote the article, so shout out to her mate as well for, letting us know that part of her life as well. And you can see why she fought so fiercely, to create things like the massacre map and, be a part of this discussion as well. It's who she is in her nature as well. So,
Bo, I'm so glad that you're here with me talking about all this, and I'm glad that you've mentioned Lyndall, because I was going to ask you about that. So I'm really happy that you spoke about her.
Oh, no, of course, totally. She was one of my first, I think 5 or 6 interviews, and she's always, been very receptive and to answering my questions, and whether or not it was for an interview or just sort of a slight question about, things in regards to frontier wars as well. And it was always amazing to sort of, have conversation. And I didn't know she, was crook or anything. So it came as a shock when our friend actually sent the article, and I made sure to, pay homage to her in an article, in an interview that I did in the Courier Mail. So, and I'll definitely do that next week, next fortnight when I'm in Armidale and also in Bingara as well. So
fantastic.
And I'm sure many other people will as well, because she was one of the main speakers a couple of years ago as well.
That's right. So you're going to be the speaker this year. Let's talk about where it is, where it's going to be. So it's going to be on Friday the 7th of June.
Yep. So that's the Armidale one at UNE University of New England, I think it's called.
Yep.
So we're going to have a yarn there. And then actually earlier in the day, there's a couple of other like historians and researchers that are going to have a yarn as well in regards to Myall Creek and like the legal aspect around it as well. So I'm definitely going to go to that and take my recorder to get some more interviews.
Fantastic.
And then also, the big day on the Sunday in Bingaroo as well. So definitely looking forward to that.
Tell us about Bingaroo. That's the one on the Sunday.
So the event on the Sunday, that's the actual commemoration, and it's an amazing site. So back in the day, they used to walk up the hill from like one of like there was like a little station house thing down the hill, and you would have speeches there. Then would all sort of walk up the hill and then do some more commemorating and yarning. And then there's like the actual path that you walk to where. So the site didn't actually happen on this little hill; it happened below it. But the mob said, "Look, we're not going to disturb the site. We're going to come up here." Over where we can sort of see it, and there's like a beautiful path that you walk that's been created. There's like this amazing dance pit with sand and like these big sandstones around it, and some chairs there as well. There's a
fantastic
toilet. But every year in the lead up and after, you get rednecks driving through there, spray painting, Avo and Wong and the N-word and all these other sort of disgusting words, that these people sort of write as well. So I know, like, for the organisers, a lot of them are on edge in regards to that and watching out for that as well. But like the impact and the emotion on the day is amazing. And as I said, like hundreds of people from all over Australia, even internationals, come for this specific event because of, I guess, the importance of it. It's the only time, to date where the judicial system, or maybe not to date, but, for a very long time where the judicial system actually tried and found, a bunch of white people guilty for massacring and murdering Aboriginal people. We live in a day and age now where, blackfellas, whose families died in custody, get no justice as well. And this sort of this shit continues to this day. Sadly, this is a reflection on the system that we live in. And I just heard your conversation before in regards to strip searching as well. I know when I was on the radio, we used to do a lot of interviews with, I forgot her name, from the Redfern Legal Service, and they had a team dedicated.
Oh, Samantha Lee.
Samantha Lee, yeah.
I'm interviewing her next week.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a good yarn.
New South Wales,
Yeah.
Pretty important. Bo, let's because I'm going to be interviewing David Glanz soon about journalists who are being killed in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
But before we close off, I just wanted to say that you're going to be a fantastic speaker, and there'll be a number of other speakers as well at the memorial. So if people want to have a look at the address and where to go, because I know it's a bit complex, where can they go to have a look at that? What website?
Awesome. So there's obviously the Friends of Myall Creek website, their Facebook page. You can look at Frontier War Stories on Instagram, because I'll chuck up all that information as well. I think that they would be the best websites to check out now. But also, while I got you before we go as well, and in mentioning, the bravery of sort of these journalists as well, in Gaza and in other parts of the world that are, continue to use their platforms to speak about our truth as well. Us fellows here in Brizzy, we're conducting a fundraiser to send a delegation of mob over to so-called New Caledonia to support our brothers and sisters in their struggle as well, and just observe what is going on and take some supplies over there as well. So that's something that we're doing as well. And if anybody is interested in supporting that, You can go check out Treaty Before Sports on Instagram and on Facebook. And I think Treaty Before Voice is the website. We've got to change over the name. But there's a bunch of information of what we're doing and getting ready to send a delegation over there as well and support our brothers and sisters there. One, because of the struggle that is going on right now, and also, two, because many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this country have, South Sea Islander blood and Kanaka blood in them, and it's just our responsibility to go support our brothers and sisters.
Thanks so much. No, that's great, Bo, because I was talking to Karen from the president of the Black People's Union last week about that, and I think you're from the Warriors of Aboriginal Resistance as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's all rock up to that event at Myall Creek.
Definitely,
and
yes, please.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show, and we'll talk to you afterwards to give an update, can we?
All good, yes, definitely. And big shout out to Uncle Rob and all the mob down there at Camp Sovereignty. Definitely keep the fire burning because, we see you fellas up here and definitely want to eventually make our way back down to come down and, camp with your mob.
Absolutely. Oh, good on you. And also a shout out, even though he's passed away, to Sam Watson.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Old Sam Watson. Because there's young Sam Watson, there's two of them.
Oh, yeah,
around.
the older one, yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Bo. Thanks a lot.
All good. Big love to you, mob down there. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. And that was Bo Spearim speaking about Myall Creek Massacre and the memorial coming up. We'll be speaking with Keith next week, going into more detail about the memorial itself. But he had some great things to say.
Throughout the month of June, we'll be asking you, our valued listener, to support fierce, independent and community-driven media during our radiothon.
We'll be taking donations online, over the phone and in the station to help keep 3CR going for another year.
The 3CR Radiothon kicks off in June.
To donate, go to 3cr.org.au.
Call the station on 03 9419 8377.
Or drop in at 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy, during business hours.
3CR, sound on for solidarity.
And you're back with the Doin Time show, and I want to welcome David Glanz from the Refugee Action Collective, but he's going to be speaking about Palestine protesters who gathered on the steps of State Parliament. Can you talk about that? Hello, David. Welcome to the program. It's been a crazy show.
Yes. Thanks. On this occasion, I'm not speaking for the Refugee Action Collective.
No. Talk to me.
We have supporters there. I'm actually a member of what is known as MEAA for Palestine, and MEAA is the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance.
Yes.
That's my union. It's the union for people across the creative industries, and in particular, it's the union for journalists. And a number of us in MEAA for Palestine organised with a group called Tales of the Olive Trees for a sort of vigil come protest, come march on Friday evening to mark the fact that, depending on which figures you go on, somewhere between 143 and 147 working journalists have been killed by Israel in Gaza since October the 7th. Obviously, Israel was killing journalists before that, but the rate of killing has stepped up horrendously, very much in line with the general level of genocidal slaughter that we've seen over the last almost 8 months. And so we came together to say we need to honour these people collectively as people who are doing their job, telling the truth, shining a light on the activities of Israel and telling the world what was going on, but also as individuals. And every one of them was acknowledged by name towards the end of the event. And there was a very moving video showing the faces of nearly all the journalists who had been killed. And congratulations to those who put that list and video together. It wasn't me. It was very moving and very effective.
David, thank you for filling in those gaps, because it was really important for you to be clear and use that context to let us know what was going on and where you're from. There's so many hats we all put on, isn't it?
Absolutely. If I had a hat for every head, I'd have a full wardrobe.
Same here. So the rally included a candlelit procession featuring the photos of each of the journalists killed by Israel, and people marched to the State Library and speeches for the reading of the names of each journalist. Is that right?
Yes, we had, after some general introduction, we had one speech at Parliament, pay credit to Andrew Jackson, who is a long-time staunch supporter of Palestinian and Irish national liberation struggles, and she's a former journalist on the Old Herald, and then for a long period was a journalist on The Age. She's also an author, and pay particular credit for her to turning up and speak, and she spoke very effectively because the week beforehand she'd been at a pro-Palestine rally outside the Labour Party conference in Moonee Pond, and a very thuggish security guard bowled her over and she broke her shoulder bone. And despite that injury, she still came into the city on Friday night to speak up and to march with us. So that was a very powerful opening. We then proceeded down to the State Library. We didn't hold the photos, but people held candles. And at the State Library, we heard from three speakers. We heard from May Said from Free Palestine, Free Palestine Melbourne, and May had actually worked for a while as a journalist on the West Bank in years gone by, so knows very much from personal experience how journalists are treated by Israel. We also heard from Nasser Mashni, from APAN, and Andrew Irving, who represented Australia-Asia Worker Links, who have done a lot of work over the years defending the right of journalists in this region. And then we, as I say, we had the video and the reading out of names. So it was a powerful event. I think people there were quite moved. And it was saying, we asked the question and we answered the question, why does Israel kill so many journalists? Partly because they're just killing so many people. And at one level, they don't care who is under their bombs and shells and bullets. But there's clearly a way in which journalists are being targeted. And there have been multiple examples of journalists targeted in so-called designated safe areas, targeted when they've been wearing press jackets and press helmets. And the only conclusion you can draw is Israel doesn't want the world to see the horrors that it's visiting upon the Palestinian people in Gaza, because what they're doing is utterly indefensible, and they know the more the world knows about it, the less the political credibility of Israel is just leaching away day by day. We see it with the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice findings and charges. We see it in the Court of Public Opinion. Israel is now a pariah state for hundreds of millions of people who maybe never quite thought about the issue, but now they know what's going on. They can't stay neutral. And, of course, journalists are an important part of that. So we also read out statements of support. Antoinette Lattouf, who, as I'm sure listeners may remember, was sacked last year by the ABC. She's a broadcaster and a journalist. She was sacked for posting or sharing an Instagram post by the Human Rights Watch organisation about the way that Israel was using hunger as a weapon of war. And we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that that wasn't propaganda, that is truth, that there is the real danger of mass famine, particularly in the northern part of Gaza at the moment. And she sent a very moving message of support to read out. She's in Sydney on Gadigal country, so wasn't able to attend. And importantly, we also had a message of solidarity from the union, our union, Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, a message written by Adam Portelli, who's the Deputy Chief Executive, which restated the union's powerful support for the right of journalists to do their jobs without harassment, let alone being killed, solidarity with the journalist union in Palestine, a call for a permanent ceasefire and the right of Palestinians to determine their future. So that was a welcome message coming from our union.
Absolutely, David, and it really is a dreadful state of affairs, isn't it, where journalists are being killed and where everybody's being killed, but journalists are really essential.
Yeah, and there are so many professional groups have been targeted. I know Health Workers for Palestine, which is a larger active group, has held a number of vigils to mark the deaths of not hundreds but thousands of health workers, doctors, porters, everything in between on the health worker spectrum. And when you have a government like the Israeli government that systematically goes about destroying hospitals and universities and schools and places of worship, both Muslim and Christian, inevitably huge numbers of people get caught up in that slaughter. And the figures, it's important sometimes to stop and remember that while something like 40,000 people have died and more than 70,000 people have been injured, some of them grievously, amongst that 40,000, we need to stop from time to time and recognise how particular groups of people have been singled out. And it's been done for children, it's been done for health workers, and on Friday we were proud to do that for our colleagues who are journalists in Gaza, overwhelmingly Palestinians.
Absolutely. David, we're nearing the end of our show. Thank you so much for coming on to the program. And I believe there were a number of authors and journalists. Where can listeners actually find the names of the people that were killed, the journalists that were killed?
That is a very good question. I don't have that information.
That's okay. That's okay.
If people message us, MEAA for Palestine Facebook page, or on Twitter, if people search for us on either of those message, I will undertake to, or Instagram actually, of course, we're on all three. If someone messages, I will undertake to get the list to them.
Thank you so much, David. And finally, our radiothon at 3CR is coming up. And in fact, our Doin Time show has to raise $950 this year. And our show is on the 10th of June. Why do you think that listeners need to donate? The Doin Time show plays an absolutely crucial role in bringing information to listeners about the fight for justice, those who are incarcerated, those who are caught up in the refugee system, and then more broadly for those who are suffering so grievously in places like Palestine. You do a great job, you do a valuable job, and yet again this year I will be happy to chip in. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming onto the program. It was lovely to have you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was David Glanz, who is actually for Palestine groups, a number of groups, including the union, and he spoke about a rally and vigil that happened on Friday in regards to journalists that were killed at Gaza. It's approximately 4:53, and we're nearing the end of our show. And I want to thank our guests for coming on today, thanking Nina and also Bo Spearim from Myall Creek and Nina from Flat Out. Sorry, Bo Spearim is a speaker for the Myall Creek commemoration and memorial coming up. And we'll be speaking next week with Keith, Uncle Keith, who is a descendant of people that were massacred over there at Myall Creek, and he'll talk to us a lot more about the memorial and also about the background of how to get there. Bo gave some excellent references in regards to what the massacres were, and he also acknowledged Lyndall as well.
Environmental Film Festival Australia invites you to ACME on Saturday the 1st of June for EFA Presents Homegrown, a one-day exploration of Australia on screen. Designed to spark conversation and demand action with documentaries, short films and more. Experience distinctly Australian perspectives on the environment, connection to country and the fight to protect our home. Tickets on sale now at effa.org.au. The Environmental Film Festival Australia is a 3CR supporter.
And you're back with the Doin Time show. It's approximately 4:55. And tune in every Monday 4 to 5 for the Doin Time show. We're going to be going out now pretty soon with our theme song Black Fella, White Fella by the Rumpy Band. And stay safe, everybody. Take care. Bye.
As long as you a true fella, as long as you a real fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter what your name is. We got to have lots of changes. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we're shouting? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you a true fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter which religions, it's all the